First of all, welcome everyone, and thank you so much for being here. You know, the tragic recent deaths of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and Breonna Taylor, the subsequent acts of violence against both demonstrators and police across the country, and the mayhem and destruction in cities, including our own, have touched us with great pain and sadness. I'd like to talk a little bit about the events of yesterday. It is my duty as mayor to balance the public's right to exercise their First Amendment rights with our community's right to have safe, secure neighborhoods and streets. On yesterday, the city of West Palm Beach honored the public's First Amendment right to free expression through protests. Peaceful demonstrations lasted several hours, beginning at 11 a.m. and going on to approximately 6 p.m. at several locations throughout our city, including the Meyer Amphitheater, Rosemary Square, even here at the police station. Significantly, arrangements were made to close I-95 for several hours, which is totally unheard of. We'd received intelligence that there was to be a shutting off of 95 by certain demonstrators. Rather than risking injury or death, we were proactive in closing off 95 and allowing the demonstrators to march up and down 95. It was closed off between Palm Beach Lakes Boulevard and Southern Boulevard, again, out of an abundance of caution and out of respect for human life. I can only imagine what would have happened if we had not taken that action and these demonstrators had just poured out into the middle of a busy interstate. And because of several hours of peaceful demonstrations, I want to thank the protesters and our police for working together and keeping the situation peaceful. However, by nightfall, the situation had deteriorated significantly. A small group of individuals whose actions were not peaceful in nature committed acts of vandalism, violence, and destruction within our city. I'm sure by now you have seen images of confrontations with police, looted stores, cars burning. Last night, after receiving a call from Police Chief Frank Adderley around 8:15, I was advised that West Palm Beach police officers were under attack from a rock-throwing crowd. Based upon that information, I declared a state of emergency, and I issued a nighttime curfew that would run from 9 p.m. until 6 a.m. for a period of 72 hours. Now, some have described that decision as idiotic. However, I stand by that decision. I believe it was the best decision given the facts that were presented to me by my trusted chief of police. Let me also go on record to say that I could not be any prouder of the West Palm Beach Police Department and the manner in which they handled a very difficult situation over these last 24 hours. The police take a lot of abuse, criticism, but I'm a strong believer, and I've said it publicly, and I will continue to say it, that if we are to have a healthy, safe community, our police must be viewed as adversaries. They must be viewed as assets and friends and not as adversaries. And I believe that we have in West Palm Beach one of the finest, if not the finest, departments who work very hard to represent themselves to the community as allies and not as adversaries. Now, I'm aware of claims levied against our police department by certain individuals who say that a confrontation on Clematis Street last night could have been avoided, and that our police were the instigators by firing rubber bullets and tear gas at protesters who had been mostly peaceful. Let me be very clear. Those allegations are 100% unequivocally false. Let me repeat that. Those allegations that the West Palm Beach Police Department instigated the confrontation is 100% false. So I've asked Police Chief Frank Adderley to join me this morning to share the facts and the truths about what really happened yesterday and last night and the department's response. He will share with you some updates in just a few moments. Well, let me conclude by saying, as mayor, I am working to strike this balance between public safety for all citizens and a fight against injustice for all citizens. I understand the frustration felt by people when an injustice is done, or even when there is a perception of injustice. However, police, not only here in West Palm Beach, but nationwide, must be our allies in the fight for public safety. And I'm looking at Minneapolis, we should not let one or two bad apples affect the perception of the entire force. Likewise, we shouldn't let the actions of a small group of agitators affect the perception of an entire group of folks who are exercising their First Amendment rights. What we are seeing here in our city and across the country, it's not a black problem, it's not a police problem, it is a community problem. Each of us can play a role to help our communities heal, but we can't do it sitting on the sidelines. We must be active participants in the healing process. We must work together. It is clear to me that this nation, and perhaps even this city, is now at a crossroads, a turning point, and we are faced with a choice. Do we move forward with this continued polarization, with hatred, with violence? Or do we move forward together with peace, with justice? And I believe in my heart that, at least for this city, we will and we must choose the latter. With that, I'll turn things over to West Palm Beach Police Chief Adderley. Chief?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and again, thank all of you for being here today and giving us this opportunity to speak. I want to first of all thank our mutual aid partners for last night, the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office, the Florida Highway Patrol, Riviera Beach Police Department, the Palm Beach Police Department, and Palm Beach Gardens Police Department. And when we really got in a heated battle, which I describe as such, they were there to help us, and we want to definitely take this opportunity to thank them. This event started yesterday about 11 a.m. when people began to gather here in the city and began their protests. And I want to say from 11 a.m. to about 7:30 last night, it was a peaceful protest. I say peaceful because not only just the people that were participating in the process, it was all of the officers of the West Palm Beach Police Department that stood with them, blocked traffic so that they could protest and in a very peaceful manner. And that was the scene up to about 7:30 p.m. At 7:30 p.m., things kind of changed. And the group that was there to stand by and block traffic so that they can have a peaceful protest, members of that group, and I'm not saying all of them, but a certain part of those, that group, decided that they were going to take this to another level. They began attacking not just our department and members of our department, but people that were innocent, just standing by. In one of the incidents, we had an elderly female in her vehicle just trying to drive home. And one of these individuals attacked her car, attacked her, and that's where we got to the point where we had to make a decision to request the mayor to issue this curfew. People criticizing us are talking about things that happen at 9 p.m., but the people that talk about 9 p.m. should have been there at 7:30 p.m. when they were throwing bottles, rocks at just, not just the police, but other people that were being attacked at the time. Now, I think this was we're very fortunate to say no one got hurt. I think we made a few arrests, but not that many. This situation could have definitely gotten out of hand, and I think based on the response of our police officers, who has made nothing but a 1,000% commitment to keep the city safe, and our mutual aid partners who I mentioned, we were successful and said, no, we can say today that no one was injured. And it's time for us to come together and have a discussion and as we move on. I think the real message here is when we're being criticized as to what our response, are we concerned about people that don't live in this city to come here and cause a disruption when the people that actually live here do not want that? So I have here with me our Deputy Chief, Rick Morris, and Assistant Chief, Tamika West, and the three of us were there from early yesterday all the way up to early hours this morning. So I'm open for questions that we can answer or respond to any of your questions at this time.
Chief, do you have a better number of the amount of arrests? And can you elaborate on how you know that a large group of those rioters were not from this community but from outside the community?
Okay. Question number one, arrest. I think it was actually 5 arrests. And some of those charges, and out of the 5, 1 was a juvenile and the other 4 were adults. Those charges range from aggravated assault, where they were actually throwing objects at individuals, the police, inciting riots, resisting arrest without violence. Why I know people from out of our area were there, the agitators that were creating this, because I saw them. I spoke to them, and we tried to discourage that. So I'm not here to tell you about what someone told me or what I read in some book or in the paper. I'm telling you what I saw. And I saw people that don't live in this city that created this problem for us yesterday.
Where are they from?
We're from West Palm Beach. A lot of people that came said they were from Broward and Dade County. In other areas, we had people saying that they were from. We had an individual from Gainesville. I mean, I don't know, but I would say the majority of the individuals that were the agitators were not West Palm Beach residents.
How many agitators do you estimate?
Lots. I mean, it was in a matter of a battle. I mean, I think there's so much video out here that will show you the number of people that were attacking the police last night. I'm sure there's a lot of it, because I've heard a lot of media and social media that they showed these attacks. But let me say this. I didn't have time to just give you a number. I mean, there's a number of people here, but I haven't really counted this group. but there were people with a sole purpose of causing a disruption, and they started with the police. The police, the group of individuals that were there blocking traffic so that they can have a peaceful protest. A group of people that believe basically the same things that they believe. We don't think that none of these incidents were fair. We support that. And we had those conversations. And I thought that they were very positive conversations. We all believe what happened was wrong, and we supported their protests and the message that they were sending. And we wanted to assist them in doing that.
Chief, what happened when the actual tear gas and the rubber bullets, if they were fired, from Clematis? What was leading up to that? Because some of the allegations said that the police just did that right after you spoke.
Well, first of all, I did not speak, and I wasn't the person that made the announcement. I don't know who started that, and I'm not here to point any fingers. But this did not start at 9 o'clock. Area and move these people out of the way. We got from the mayor. But that was something that happened since 7:30 p.m. So we're being attacked by then. That's when the whole thing started. It wasn't 9 p.m. 9 p.m. is when we were able to legally say we have to clear the streets in our city.
And did you have to take some sort of measures such as tear gas at that point because people were not dispersing or people being violent?
We didn't use tear gas.
Tear gas was not used. Use what?
Smoke.
Smoke.
What were the other forms of force, so to say, that you used? You know, smoke, something, rubber bullets. Was there anything else of that nature?
You want to answer?
Chief, want me to answer?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
To lead up to your question, there were multiple incidents. What happened was we ended up with about 3,000 protesters. And to answer your question, we cannot give you a direct number how many agitators there were because what we were trying to do was control the narrative. What happened was my estimate on how many agitators there were less than 100 out of 3,000. The first incident happened, the protesters probably walked pretty close to 7 square miles. What happened was they started when they were getting back to Clematis. The protesters that were peaceful were leaving after they went through the amphitheater. They were clearing out. The ones that stayed behind had a plan. There's no doubt in my mind they were organized. When they got to a particular area, almost to Clematis Street, they started stopping traffic. What started the first incident was there was a lady in a car, and they started getting up on the hood of her car and jumping. There should be video all over that. And the good news for us is there's going to be video all over. We have cameras going, so the proof's out there. The situation when they started jumping in her car, one of our female officers had to do something. She had to take action. She used non-lethal force, pepper spray, which is the lowest level we can. The reason why I use pepper spray is when you've got an unruly crowd, it usually disperses them, which doesn't cause a physical interaction. At that point, they started running, they started throwing things in the street, they started hitting cars, started working their way to Clematis. One of the situations we had was when they drew their line and our police officers confronted them, unfortunately, it was a bad location. It was the railroad tracks. So they had ammunition, railroad rocks. My vehicle, the windows were busted out. I was hitting the ankle with a rock myself, so what I'm speaking to you with is coming from me, what I seen. What I seen at that point was confrontation. The agitators are doing it. If you watch the videos nationwide, they'll put out social media invitations to our kids, high school, college kids. They put them up front with their hands up. But watch where the rocks and bottles are coming from. Behind them, they're actually using our children as a barrier with the police. It's one of their tactics. And if you watch the videos you have that are out there, you'll see it. What happens is when the rocks and bottles fly, my officers are in jeopardy. They're in harm. What happened then was we tried to talk, more rocks were coming. At one point, I called the chief of police, I was out there. He got the mayor, we said we need a curfew. They're starting to loot all over the city. All of this county's got limited resources. We had police running everywhere. The chief praised our partners, the sheriff's office, gardens, the highway patrol. We needed them because at this point, it was desperate. A bunch of our stores were looted. We got real lucky because our injuries were minimal. We didn't have any serious injuries, and the damage to the city was minimal. It could have been 1,000,000 times worse. But the reality of what happened in Clematis, where you're hearing the allegations of rubber bullets are minimal force, less than a nightstick. And what it does is it puts a bruise on you. I am not aware of any casualties ever caused by rubber bullets. And the reason they used them, they were told by me to stop the rock throwers. Because not only were they throwing rocks at my police department, we had people to our rear that were civilians that the rocks were hitting the streets. And there's plenty of witnesses out there that we were trying to cover, and if you look at the video, you'll see us trying to protect people. At that point, we turned around, the curfew was enacted, there were warnings given, at least 3 times, and don't quote me on that because I know of at least 2, but I believe 3, to cease and desist, there's a curfew in place. They were agitated, more rocks. At one point after that, shots were fired. This was on Clematis. This was by the so-called peaceful demonstrators. What happened then was our people drew a line, spread, they went to Virgin, the train station, tried to break in there, throwing rocks all over the place, and they started scattering. At that point, we started looting all over the city. The outlet mall, on Okeechobee, the stores down there. At that point, we became totally reactive, and that's the situation we're in. And I hope I answered most of your questions.
Yeah, no, and so I know you mentioned the outlets, obviously places downtown. Where else was the looting?
I apologize this morning. I was out till almost 3:30 last night. I don't have all the facts in front of me, so I can't give you that. But there was, you know what? I can say this. Last night at 3:30, the report I got, I was very happy that the theft, and it was minimal. Target got his windows busted. I heard Walmart was hit, but I don't have the facts in front of me yet. Our office were up all night, a lot of them were 18 hours. My reports aren't all completed yet this morning.
Do you have reason to believe that there could possibly be more riots tonight? And what steps are being done to protect the community if so?
Here's the steps. I met with great people. They came to my police department last night, and the agitators wanted to break my windows. We had communication with them. You'll have it on video. I talked to them. I got hugs. They were great people. Out of those 3,000, the majority of them are great people that need a voice. The chief said it. We're not disagreeing. We're not their enemy. What happened in Minnesota is despicable. I don't think you'll find anybody in law enforcement says anything differently. But here's the situation. If we don't open up communication and get the right people in the right place, we can't shut out the fake news and the dialogue, the stuff they're putting on social media to stir our children up, to get them out there in droves with bad information. I need you to get the real information out. We're transparent. Please look at the videos that are out there. Look for the truth, because I need that, because the truth is the only thing that's going to make this right. You know what? The video in Minnesota speaks for itself. That's what law enforcement needs. And we need to hold people accountable like that. Chief Adderley is very transparent. We do not want bad cops. There's no way. And I need your help. And we can keep on fencing. And Palm Beach Post today, Chief Adderley said, basically, gave the order. He was in the command center working out everything else. We need to have facts. Maybe our communication with you has got to be greater. But we need to fix that. And you know what? The chief's in charge. I shouldn't be up here. Thank you.
But to follow up, we have seen some social media posts talking about riots again this evening. Are you aware of them, and do you think this could happen again?
We're in close contact with all of our law enforcement partners throughout this Tri-County area. Could it happen again? Possibly. All I'm saying is we're going to be prepared for it. We're going to be prepared for it. I think that our response last night to that situation showed that we were prepared for it, and with the help of our surrounding partners, we're going to be prepared if it's going to happen tonight or tomorrow night or whatever night it is. We're going to do everything we possibly can to keep the city safe, and that's our commitment.
It's important to note that the curfew is still in place.
And how long is the curfew going to be extended to?
Right now, it's a 72-hour curfew, but I'm sorry. The original curfew was for a period of 72 hours, but we will probably I will be going to the commission at our meeting tonight to seek an extension of that, and that way we will have that if necessary. Hopefully it won't be necessary, but we will continue this curfew in place until we are assured that order has been restored to our streets.
So far, it's curfew until further notice.
Yes.
And Mayor, can you talk about some of the conversations that your administration is having with community leaders and community members that to be proactive that if this were to happen again, steps to try and stop it from taking place?
Well, since this just happened last night, we have not had any ongoing conversations. I will stand on my reputation and my relationships throughout this community. I've been mayor now for a bit over a year, and I think I've built up some credibility there. I've heard from representatives of the business community offering their assistance. I've heard from neighborhood associations offering their assistance. So we will continue to look for ways to have constructive dialogue. But again, this is not a problem that West Palm Beach has. When I sat down and made the decision to hire Police Chief Adderley, I knew that he and I shared the same view of the type of culture that we wanted to have with this department. He doesn't want any rogue cops, just like I don't. And I believe that he and the leadership, the command staff of the police department are working hard each and every day to ensure that they have a department that represents the values of honesty, transparency, and I think the actions speak louder than words.
Do either you or the chief have a message for the people that if they are planning to come up here, not the people who are trying to protest or demonstrate peacefully, but the people who come up to cause problems?
Well, if there are some agitators out there who happen to be listening to this, my message to them is you might want to try another city. This is not the one. This is not the city. I don't plan to countenance that kind of behavior, not on my watch. And I believe that I have a police department that is also looking to ensure that the right thing is done. And again, this is all about keeping West Palm Beach safe. Public safety is job number one. So if you have ill intention about what your visit to West Palm Beach is going to be, I encourage you, don't try us.
Wrap up, guys? You good? The curfew was announced just before 9 o'clock. You state that these protesters had, some of them probably didn't even know, and even they had enough time to leave before the rubber bullets started and
It started at 7:30, the chief answered that.
well, no, I meant the curfew. The curfew
Well, the
started.
curfew was done because of the amount of stress they were under. He answered that already.
I'll talk on it, Dave. I do want to say, unlike hurricanes, this isn't something that we do all the time. And we can say this and this and that. Everybody's reacting to this situation. As the chief said, this began yesterday at 11 a.m. Actually began Saturday. There were demonstrators at Okeechobee and Dixie. Very peaceful demonstration, which is what we expected and we support, as the chief said. 11 o'clock it started. Of course, we had to start planning before that. So you got the wee hours of the morning, Sunday morning. Peaceful people came to demonstrate all throughout the day. You have those that critique and said, well, all you had to do was give them another hour. We were peaceful with them up until the bottles started flying, the rocks. Now, what happened was and it may appear that we gave the announcement, okay, 9 o'clock, and then munitions were used and pepper balls were used. However, what happened was, because we were there, we weren't in an office, we weren't at home, I was there at Clematis and Quadrille. The announcement was given, the crowd reacted to that announcement, started throwing things, and then thus we reacted to that throwing things. So it happened so quickly, it means that, they announced that they didn't give people a chance to react to get out of there, but they did react verbally and physically by throwing things. And then in defense of some of the demonstrators, they did, hey, stop throwing those bottles, stop doing this, but then you have people in the back lobbing things toward the officers, which is what incited everything. So we are not out here, we're with the public, we're not here to harm anybody, as the Chief Adderley said. Thankfully, no one was hurt during any of this, but then you gotta understand too, we had other things going on throughout the city. People marched over to Palm Beach, then they had to come back to our city, so we have to wait till they come back. So it's all a plan. We don't have a script for this. We do not. We're reacting, we're trying to keep everybody safe, including ourselves. We want to go home to our families as well. We want to keep everybody safe. People that aren't participating, they have their right to do that. We appreciate that and we respect it. And we do sympathize and empathize with all victims.
Let me add something. Because I think you have to look at the entire body of work that was done by this police department. As they said, these demonstrations started at 11 o'clock yesterday. The preparation by the department started even earlier. So if you look over the course of a day, by the time the agitators were becoming aggressive toward our department, that's over 8 hours, if my math is correct, of peaceful demonstration that was facilitated by West Palm Beach Police Department. So don't focus on just 5 or 10 minutes. Look at the entire body of work of what this department was doing to facilitate peaceful demonstration throughout the day. If you're going to tell the story, tell the entire story, please.